kung meron tayong problema sa ibang tao na ang attitude nila sa atin ay very rude, meron silang nasasabi sa atin palagi hindi maganda, it's not their fault, it is our fault. If we change our attitude, the attitude of others will also change. Hello mga ka-eksena, magandang araw sa inyo. Ito na naman tayo sa isa na namang edisyon ng pag-aaral natin about reality. Reality, yes, napakalaga or napaka-exciting pag-aralan ng mga katulad ng mga ganitong topic about reality, about personal development, about how can you change your reality? How can you change your life? Meron akong gustong share sa inyo about the book of Neville Goddard, which is the Power of Assumption. And in this book, sabi dito sa chapter 7, it's all about our attitude. Attitude towards ourselves. Attitude toward ourselves. Ayan. So, sabi dito, they conducted an experiment. Dalawang psychologists conducted an experiment about dito sa reality. They conducted an experiment on their psychology laboratory. They proved that what you see when you look at things depends not so much on what is there, as on the assumption as you make when you look. So ano ibig sabihin nito? Ang mga bagay na tinitingnan natin o nakikita natin, pag tumitingin tayo sa isang bagay, hindi kung ano meron dun sa tinitingnan natin, kundi kung ano yung assumption doon sa pagtingin natin sa isang bagay. Sabi dito, your assumption determines not only what you see but also what you do. For they all govern your conscious and subconscious movement to the fulfillment of themselves. So, ibig sabihin, kung ano yung nakikita natin, they governs our action subconsciously, consciously, and more on subconsciously. They govern our yung kilos natin, yung pag-iisip natin. Our assumption governs, siya nag-governs kung ano yung ikinikilos natin. Your assumption is the hand of God molding the firmament into the image of that which you assume. The assumption of the wish fulfilled is the high tide which lifts you easily off the bars of the senses where you have so long strained. Yun. Ito, ang ganda ng passage dito sa message na to, no? Yung assumption daw natin, ito yung high tide na maglilip sa atin sa pagkakakulong natin dito sa dimension na to. Ito yung escape natin or yung pinaka savior natin para tayo ay makaalis sa bar of senses or pagkakakulong natin in this dimension. It lifts our mind into the prophecy of full right sense of the word. So yung mind natin, we can see beyond our senses sa tulong ng assumption. Ito pa isang magandang passage dito. Because there is nothing unclean of itself or clean of itself, you should assume the best and think only of that which is lovely and good report. Sabi niya dito, may mga bagay na it is neutral. So, kung neutral na lahat ng bagay, it is best to think only that which is lovely and good report. Ito pa. Your particular relationship to another influence your assumption. Ibig sabihin, yung pakikitungo natin sa mga ibang tao, it influence our assumption. Nababago niya yung assumption natin. It alters our perception, or it alters our assumption. It alters our assumption with respect to the person. So, kung ano yung associated natin na person, nakaka-apekto siya sa atin, sa assumption natin, sa ibang tao, or sa kanya mismo. Nakakapagpabago yung mga kasama natin sa ating assumption sa kanila. O, nagigets nyo ba yan? Then, now what you believe on him cannot be absolutely true, but it is relatively true. Kung ang paniniwala mo sa isang tao ay may certain behavior ang isang tao, kung yung behavior na yan ay na-influence ka, so makikita mo sa tao na yan kung ano yung kung ano yung makikita mo sa kanya, ini-expect mo sa kanya. Yun ang ipoproject niya. Yun yung pinaka magandang term doon. Yun ang ipoproject niya sa iyo. So, ibig sabihin, kung meron kang, di ba meron tayong term na kung mabait siya, mabait din ako sa kanya. Di ba nakakarinig tayo ng mga term na ganyan. Meron naman yung kung salbahe siya, ay salbahe din ako. So, ibig sabihin, yung attitude ng ibang tao, not determine. Yung attitude ng ibang tao, depende sa attitude na pinoproject natin sa kanila. So, ganun ang nangyayari. Akala natin, meron talagang attitude yung mga tao na sarili na. Kung minsan yung perception natin sa isang tao, minsan, unang nakilala natin, parang, ang behavior niya is parang, bakit ganito ang behavior nito? Nung una ko siya makilala, pero nung pagtagal-tagal, nagbabago na. Okay naman pala siya. Minsan may ganun na pagkakakilala natin sa isang kaibigan o sa isang tao na first time mo lang na-meet. So, ibig sabihin yan, yung perception mo or yung perception natin sa tao, depende sa pagkaka-associate natin sa kanya or kung ano yung pinoproject natin, kung ano yung nakikita natin sa kanya. Parang nagpiping-pong na ganun yung yung sinasabi ko, no? Pero actually makikita natin mamaya yung pinaka-message nito. Meron actual case history dito na ikinukwento niya about isang costume designer and prominent theatrical producer. So, ibig sabihin, itong relationship ng costume designer and then itong producer ay araw-araw silang at work na nagkikita. So, magkasama sila sa work, no? So, itong costume designer na to, meron siyang difficulties about sa kanyang producer. So, namumroblema siya dun sa producer niya. Bakit? Ang sabi dito, he unjustly criticized his work and rejected his best work, ang sabi dito. And oftentimes, he was deliberately rude and unfair to him. Upon hearing this story, sabi, kinukwento niya dito sa author, I explained that if she found her the other rude and unfair, it was surely sign that she herself was wanting it. It was not the producer, but herself was in need of a new attitude. So, ibig sabihin, itong costume designer na to, palagi siyang rude ang pagtingin sa kanya or pagtrato sa kanya ng itong producer na to. So, anong nangyayari? Tataka siya dahil araw-araw ganon. Ngayon, kinuwento niya ngayon dito sa mismong author na si Neville Goddard. Nakita ngayon itong author na to na ang problema wala naman talaga dun sa producer. Ang problema is nando dun mismo sa attitude ng costume designer. Kasi ito na sinabi niya rito. I told her that the power of his assumption and its practical application could be discovered only through experience. So, itong power of assumption, itong mga assumption na ginagawa natin, ay makikita lang natin through experience. May experience lang natin. And that only by assuming that the situation was already that was she wanted it to be, could she prove that she could bring about the change desired. Her employer was merely bearing witness, telling her by his behavior that her concept of him was. So, ibig sabihin, pinoproject ni costume designer kung ano yung attitude na pinapakita niya sa attitude, and itong producer is only bearing witness. Kumbaga, nire-reflect back lang ni producer doon sa costume designer kung ano yung attitude ni costume designer sa sarili niya. Pino-project niya, and then binabalik lang ni producer sa kanya kung ano yung attitude niya sa sarili niya. So, ibig sabihin, wala naman talagang problema sa producer. Ang problema talaga is nandoon sa costume designer. Kasi, bakit? Ito. Sinuggest ni author that it was quite probable that she was carrying a mental conversation with him in her mind. So, meron palang nangyayari sa mind nitong costume designer that were filled with criticism and recrimination. Meron palang meron siyang iniisip about doon sa producer na nire-reflect back lang nitong producer sa kanya. Meron pala siyang mental conversation sa sarili niya na criticism and recriminations, that there was no doubt that but she was mentally arguing with the producer. Ibig sabihin, merong mental arguing sa costume designer, sa mismong isip niya. Nagkikipag-argue itong costume designer mentally sa producer. For others only echo that which we whisper to them in secret. She confessed that every morning, ito pala nangyayari. Kinonfess nung costume designer that every morning pala, on her way to work to the theater, she told him that he was just thought of him in a way she would never have dared address him in person. The intensity and force of her mental argument with him automatically established his behavior towards her. So, nakita niyo yun? So, ibig sabihin, ito yung principle na sowing and reaping eh. What we put out is what we get back. What we put out is what we get back. So, she began na-realize na ng babae, to realize that all us carry a mental conversation, but unfortunately, on most occasions, these conversations are argumentative. Marami sa atin ang merong mental conversation araw-araw about the person na kasama natin palagi. Ang problema, kadalasan sa mga mental conversation na to is argumentative. Diba, ang sabi niya kanina, bago natin basahin to, ang sabi niya, that which is lovely and good report, think of these things. Lahat ng magagandang bagay, yun ang isipin natin. Kasi it will reflected back in our environment or in our circumstances. So that many people are mentally engrossed in mental conversations. When she realized, ito na, that she agreed to change her attitude to live this law faithfully by assuming that her job was highly satisfactory and her relationship with the producer was a very happy one. So, binago niya yung attitude ni costume designer. Binago niya yung attitude niya. She agreed that before going to sleep, ito na yung during the day, she imagined that he congratulated her. So, binago niya yung isip niya about the producer, that he imagined and that he congratulated her on fine design. In turn, he thanked him for the praise and kindness. To her great delight, ito na nangyari. To her great delight, she soon discovered for herself that her own attitude was the cause of all that befell her. So, nakita niya na yung palang kanyang mismong attitude ang nagko-cause ng kung ano yung bumabalik sa kanya. So, nakita natin, no? The behavior of the employer miraculously reversed itself. So, sa pamamagitan ng pagbago ng sarili niyang attitude, yung behavior ng producer ay miraculously reverse itself. Nagulat siya ngayon. Nagbago yung pakikitungo ng producer sa kanya. So, his attitude echoing. Bumabalik lang ng kung ano yung attitude natin, bumabalik lang sa atin as it had always done. Which was she assured now reflected her changed concept of him. she did was the power of her imagination. So through the power of imagination, he persisted the assumption influenced his behavior, determined his attitude toward her. So by the intensity of her imagination, so depende sa lakas ng kanyang imagination or depende sa paggamit niya sa kanyang imagination, the designer cast a kind of enchantment on her producer's mind. So, and cause him to think, and cause him, yung producer, and cause him to think that his generous praise originated with him. So, ibig sabihin, yung producer, wala siyang kaalam-alam na yung kanyang mind is na-reverse at nagbago yung kanyang attitude towards the costume designer. Often, our most elaborated and original thoughts are determined by another. We should never be certain that it was not some woman trading in the wine press began some subtle change in man's mind, or that the passion did not begin in the mind of some shepherd boy lighting up his eyes for a moment before it ran upon its way. Makakonclude natin na yung attitude pala ng ibang tao sa atin is determined by the attitude of our attitude towards them. The attitude of others are determined by our attitude towards ourselves. Kung ano yung ginagawa natin sa sarili, ire-reflect back lang ng ibang tao. Kung meron tayong problema sa ibang tao, na ang attitude nila sa atin ay very rude, or they criticize us palagi, or meron silang nasasabi sa atin palagi hindi maganda, it's not their fault, it is our fault, because yun yung ginagawa natin attitude sa sarili natin. If we change our attitude, the attitude of others will also change. Ang sabi nung kanina, miraculously. Ang ganda ng ginamit na word, no? Miraculously. Ibig sabihin, miracle. Miracle. Biglang nagbago yung attitude ng tao. Kaya pala, ang sabi sa Psalms, no? Sa Psalms ba yan? Ang sabing ganun, kung meron kang kaaway, regaluhan mo siya ng, bigyan mo siya ng gift, no? Ang sabi doon. So, ibig sabihin, kung meron kayong argument, ang unang-unang magsusurrender para mabago yung attitude niya sa'yo is ikaw. Pag ginawa mo yon, you change your attitudes toward yourself. And the change that you change in yourself will be reflected back doon sa kaaway mo. So, napakasimple lang, no? Medyo mahirap tanggapin, pero kung titignan natin, principle kasi yun eh. What you sow is what you reap. So, marami kasi mga principle, mga laws of the universe, universal laws, ang medyo hindi natin binibigyan pansin. So, dahil dito sa message na to, napoprove natin na ang universal laws and biblical laws are true. So, sana may napulot kayo dito sa message na to, at napakaganda na naman ang ating message ngayon, Through the Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard. So, kung gusto nyo, itry nyo din sa sa buhay nyo, kung meron kayong mga tao na rude ang dating sa inyo, or palagi kayong binubuli, palagi kayong iba ang dating sa inyo, merong attitude sila sa iyo na hindi mo gusto, try mong baguhin yung attitude mo sa sarili mo, and then testingin natin yung miraculously na sinasabi dito, kung totoo nga talaga. Pero I believe it was true, totoo na ganun talaga, kasi principle nga yan eh. Wala tayong magagawa kasi laws yan eh. Pag sinabing laws, it is immutable. Yun na yun eh, pag sinabing laws eh, hindi mo ma-break yan eh. So, sana may natutunan kayo dito sa video na to, and then like, share, and subscribe po sa Dong TV, and we will be having more discussion about the personal development and success principles, and ano pa, mga siguro life coaches na rin, no? May motor eh. Mga life coaches and life's principle, mga law of attraction, personal development, yan, madadaanan natin. Ngayon, if you're interested, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell for more video updates. Maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig. Dong TV po. Huwag niyo kalimutan. Like, share, subscribe. Salamat!